nice fruiting of really fresh autumn oysters. I like all oyster mushrooms, but autumns I think are the best because they're the most bug-free. And when you find them fresh, they're going to have a meaty feel to them. You can actually hear that as I whack them. Very fleshy mushroom, very fleshy. And you can see they're growing on a stalk off of the tree. They come in a variety of colors. I mean, they can be yellow, they can be a bluish purple, they can be like these, a tan color, and underneath you can see they're a little creamy. Notice the underside of the gills is creamy. So these guys are all over the place in the autumn woods. The key is to find them in the first few days before they get damaged by the frost or too big. But I'll tell you what, even a big one that's gone by a little bit, you fry that thing up in oil, you're going to like it. I'm going to be able to take these and cook them up in a stir fry, and then what I'll do is I'll put them in plastic bags and eat them throughout the winter. I mean, they're really good, and they're, of course, locally grown, and you can get yourself these if you basically drive down your local dirt road and keep your eye open, or if you want, hike. Now you'll notice that this is on a dead maple tree. This is a big, big dead maple tree, and they seem to really be pounding out of the maples in the last couple weeks. So you want to get out and look, but make sure you get yourself a good ID book, please. Don't just go asking questions to people on the internet. Look it up, get a good ID. When you're harvesting mushrooms, you can do it a couple different ways. You can do it from the road, or you can hoof off the beaten path. And when you do, you're going to find some history. Because all over the Northeast where I live, the land has a tale to tell. So here we have some beautiful, right behind me here, some beautiful, probably 25, 30-year-old black birch, maybe 40. Black birch were used by the native people to make their war clubs. They dig down into the ground, and where the bole of the tree went in, it would create a cudgel where the grain went every which way. And as I'm walking, you can see behind me something that New England is known for all over, especially central and southern New England, and that would be these stone walls. And this is a testimonial to an event that occurred in history called sheep fever. Sheep fever began at the beginning of the 19th century when an ambassador to Spain stole a bunch of merino sheep. And merino sheep produce the softest wool that it's not scratchy and nice and warm. And anyways, the guy brought over, I think, 2,000 head of sheep to Vermont. Before you knew it, sheep were everywhere. I've heard as many as 20 million sheep, but I think that's probably high. Here, we can see the stone walls, which were built by the sheep farmers. I mean, they basically were mixed livestock up here. They had dairy, they had garden plots, and when they could all of a sudden make serious profit by selling a couple of harvests of wool a season, they started building these walls. And these walls crisscross our landscape. You see them everywhere. Now, some of them are garden plot walls, but when they're high and thin like this, you know you're looking at the product of the merino sheep craze, or sheep mania. You can see how the forest behind me is fairly open. There's a lot of white birch. And that's because not that long ago, this was a field. And I'm talking the 1970s. So 50 years ago, 45 years ago, you had a field here. And believe it or not, there was actually plans to make a dude ranch in this area. They built a tennis court. they divided up, I don't know how many, 300 acres, I think, into parcels. They built a couple houses, not many, and the project kind of fell to pieces. As a lot of projects do. That's a little more modern history. The fact that they built a tennis court really screams 1970s. But they were building on top of an abandoned homestead. And you see the evidence of that abandoned homestead all over the place. And I'm going to walk up here to an old barn area that was a barn, and we're going over what was the loading wall of the barn, and you can see it down below. I just walked over it. See that pile of rocks, and you can see they were building them high here. A quick way of knowing that you're in a 19th century homestead all over the Northeast is what's right behind me here. Apple trees. And apple trees are a dead giveaway that you're around an area that people built their homes. You can see there's even more out in the distance. Apple trees are gnarled and they don't get very big. And after the canopy grows above them, they tend to die off pretty quick. But apple trees are found all over the Northeast, still growing, some wild. And Johnny Appleseed, he wasn't from far away. Right behind me, you can see another leaf shape right there.